Really good.
Thank you. Oh, who is the whistle? I feel like this is, have you seen the episode of Arrested Development where they give out whistles and everyone in the boardroom is blowing them? Yeah, anyway, that was just like TV. Cool, so welcome everybody. So if you haven't signed in, once again, the slides will be posted. You're free to sign in posthumously. Obviously y'all aren't gonna be lying about being here because you are here, so. But yeah, so there's a ton of stuff on this link tree and everything that we'll have posted.
Hayden, I have a question. Is your background the whole B movie?
Peyton, what the heck?
Where they took the opening? No. I wanted everyone to.
You guys couldn't see, but Peyton's Zoom thumbnail was the B movie.
Can you please keep it going?
No.
We'll show you guys after we run through the PowerPoint.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know if everybody on this side can see it, but I posted a short agenda. We're basically going to start with some announcements. We're going to go into about 20 to 30 minute intern panel, and then have our resume workshop, which we have a short presentation and then go into review. So I hope you brought either a digital or physical copy, but if not, we all, like, some of us have computers, just like you need to sign in and find it. Yeah, so we'll be splitting up with some of the senior officers into little pods for that. So, oh, what did I do? Oh, I clicked something.
You could just use the
Oh, it's back.
Space bar.
All right, yeah, so today's itinerary for the updates, we have general updates, we have the t-shirt contest results, we're going to talk about our speaker for the next meeting, then again, our intern panel and resume review. So I don't think any of you guys are new, but we got some fun pictures. So take a gander. Yeah, so we're going to be doing some more social events soon as well, so keep an eye out for that. We're hopefully going to have some sort of like end of the year event. Okay, so for design teams, we have, again, our 2 design teams, and if you guys haven't come out already, they are both still completely able to be joined. We got started kind of midway into the semester, so even if you join now, you'd be getting in kind of at the forefront. What is happening? So for the ride design team, we have decided the so that will have a lot of mechanical components, but also if you or a loved one is into controls or electrical engineering, anything like that, there'll be a lot of engineering stuff for that as well as a lot of thematic components, including theater design, lighting, special effects, and story and art. So meetings for that are Monday at 7:30 in Little 217, which is the same room for the Blue Sky team. So it's pretty easy to remember, and there's parking and everything there as well. So if you guys haven't come out to that, I would suggest it. It's really easy to get started even now. And then for the Blue Sky team, the haunted house project is going super well. We are working on figuring out where we're going to be building it, figuring out if we're going to be working with, you know, a theater program or anything like that. So got a lot of options for that. That one is more focused on concept generation, at least right now. So if you're interested in learning about that, even if you're a more technical person, that is a really important process to understand from an engineering side as well, because you need to know like the intent behind things. You need to understand IP, you need to understand story. And then next semester, we're going to be moving into doing more construction document type stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, that will be happening as well. Again, that one's also very easy to join. We have a lot of the captains in this room, so feel free to talk to them during the resume review. And those meetings are 7:30 on Thursday in the same room as before.
All right, very excited about this one. We are having Lloyd Odell come to speak to us. He is the entertainment operations manager at Animal Kingdom at Disney. So, and he also has experience as a show operations technician, some, you know, SeaWorld promo. So he is coming to share his experiences, how he got to where he is, all that fun stuff on next Wednesday, November 10th from 6 to 8 in the new physics building. So I got a big room, bring all your friends. He's coming like in person. He's driving all the way from Orlando. So kind of a big deal. So I'd really like a lot of people to show up. And it's not just engineering, you know, he's in charge of entertainment, so like dancers, theater people, anything, you know, if you're interested in what he's doing, please come on out.
Yeah, sweet.
Very excited.
All right, so Claudio, would you like to talk about the details for this?
Well, so essentially, as you see here, this is the winning shirt design. We're super excited to like share it. You guys have merch finally. Rep your favorite org on campus. So information will be sent soon on how to purchase the shirts as well. It will most likely be through custom ink. I'm debating whether doing the method we did last year where they were also able to have the option to send it to their house rather than come pick it up from us. We'll work out those details as well and give you guys the full price. I'm probably gonna make a document to get like an interest form, just so I can see like the number of how many people are interested. You get more than one, you can tell your friend to get one if they're cute. This also serves as a fundraiser for the org, so it helps generate some money. So by all means, share it around, tell people to get that cute shirt. That way people are like, hey, where'd you get that shirt? You can tell them where you got that shirt. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, so this was actually cool because this is a combination of two of the designs. Stephen, who is not here, has the main image on the back. He came up with the concept, and even though it was just a sketch, I think people really seemed to like it in the voting system. So we decided to combine it with the kind of rocket design of the poster. But also, if you guys are in the design teams, be on the lookout because we're looking to do shirts for that as well. So we're gonna be doing a lot more merch fundraising with stickers and hopefully even maybe pins. So if you guys are interested in some merch, it would be, it's cool. Claudio is your point man for that.
We also take merch suggestions.
Yes, merch suggestions. If
I
you
know
guys are like, I
stickers
want a
are-
bucket hat.
I know
Let us know.
stickers are a must. I want to slap a sticker on my laptop and on my hydro flask. Yeah, you have. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually really smart.
We could
Library
have,
and everything.
we could have some theme park accessible.
All right. So now we're going to be going into our intern panel. So we have a couple of questions for our moderator, Tyler Grace, will be asking a couple of main questions to start, but then also we will be, obviously having an open floor for everybody else. So in the panel is myself, Chris, Will, Claudio, and Hannah. So yeah, it comes to the speakers. We can just change the, how do we make it look like Will?
I mean, he doesn't have his camera on right now.
Hey, Will.
Will is our narrator.
Is the meme movie really still happening?
Yes, it's
Yes.
happening.
You were a menace to society.
How much storage does that take on your laptop?
Oh dear. Did somebody say Will?
Hey,
Hello,
there
Will.
he is. Okay.
Can we put him on
Yeah, I can
here?
put him up there.
Oh no.
Second screen. Can you press escape?
Escape.
There he is.
Oh.
Big Will.
It's just
There he
Is
is.
someone get a picture of this? This is so
Please have my stool.
Yes, of course. I only moved.
I feel way too powerful up here.
So we're gonna aim to do about 30 minutes, around like 8 or 6.
Wonderful. If you all feel comfortable in masking, you're totally welcome to. Welcome, everyone. This is very exciting, very, very fun to do. Can I have the slide wherever we have that?
Find the map on the other.
I love
So,
how.
quick question. How many of you guys have
You want,
had
you want to sit over
internships
here and not?
before?
Switch.
How many of you guys have applied to internships and been hella rejected?
Hey,
Have you applied to many?
thank you. That helps.
You're cool.
One out of 100% acceptance.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Andrew's just going for it.
Out of curiosity, where did you get that? What internship was it?
I was at an architecture firm local, back
Okay,
where I
cool.
live. But it was honestly because I knew people.
Networking.
Love it.
Not
Yeah,
nepotism.
networking.
It's not nepotism.
My
Networking.
grandfather.
That's nepotism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wonderful.
So Tyler, would you like to get started?
Absolutely. So if we can go down the line, just I know we might have a couple of familiar faces here, but if you would mind going down the line, saying your name, your year, year and your major, and then favorite internship out of the ones you have done so far.
This is being recorded.
Yes.
Wonderful. Perfect. So starting with you, Claudio.
Hey everyone, my name is Claudia Trio. I'm a third year mechanical engineering major, minor in theater production, specialty on set design track, like almost half the room. So I've only had one internship experience. So this summer I was a part of the P&G standout program. P&G is Procter & Gamble. They make Tide, Gain, Bounty, Pampers, all those luxurious brands. It's essentially a feeder program into an internship next summer. So next summer I will be in Cincinnati, Ohio, doing research and development for product supply.
Cool. Hi, I'm Ellie. I am a fifth-year Mechie major with a set design minor and a half. Basically, I've taken a lot of extra classes. I have had 2 internships thus far. One at Nassau in Orlando, which is the theme park design company that also mainly specializes in rock work. And then also one this summer at the Cade Museum for Creativity and Invention.
Hannah?
I'm Hannah. I'm majoring in chemical engineering. I'm a junior. And this summer I went up to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and I was technically it was like a business intern, but I worked on the ride every single day. So I was in charge of the ride. I was a senior ride operator. So I had a whole team under me that I kind of made schedule for and made sure they would do what they needed.
And then Chris?
Hello, I'm Chris. I'm a graduate structural engineering student here at UF, and first internship was at Skyline Attractions in Orlando, and second one at BRPH in Melbourne, also.
Now that we've heard a little bit of where everyone.
Will.
Oh, Will, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Sorry about that, Will.
I'll just sit here quietly in the background. No, I'm just kidding. Hi, Will Melchenbush, done. My favorite was definitely, I was a rides technician intern at SeaWorld Orlando before sophomore year. Then after that, I did work at a show action equipment company for amusement park rides called Entech Innovative Engineering. And then summer 2020, I was an intern at Universal Creative.
Now that we've heard a little bit about where everyone has interned, if you would mind describing a little bit about the day of the life of being an intern in, you can describe either one or both of whatever your internships were. So just give us a little bit of a picture of what it was like to be an intern.
So I'll start. So first, the feeder program, it was essentially a bunch of seminars. We got to know a bunch of people in the program. I would totally recommend it for freshmen and sophomores. Even though it's not theme park related, it's a lot of technical experience that you could carry out anywhere. So that's one thing I'm going to give right now, like just apply anywhere. It's okay if not exactly where you want to be. The job is very like independent. So one thing about P&G is they give you full trust to do everything. They give you the tools and then they're like, all right, you're working with people who have been in the company for years and they see you as an equal. So because of that, you match their standard of work. The interns there are very like, you have to be a very like, I'm a self-reliant person, but you're free to ask questions at all times. It's a very encouraging network. So even though like there's people who are like maybe 30 years your senior who have been in the company for like 15 years, they really do see you as an equal, like regardless. Like if you're a manager for a certain project, they're gonna come up to you and ask you questions if they're working under you. So it's a very nice atmosphere to be working in, especially somewhere where you're learning, because sometimes someone might come up to you and ask a question, you're like, I'm 18, and then you turn to someone else and you ask another question and they'll help you out regardless, and then you can pass that down. So it's a great experience.
So for the one I did at Nassau, the day-to-day was very much, I was mainly working on AutoCAD packages. So one thing that's really important when you're applying to internships is figuring out what software they use at the company, because oftentimes they'll use like 1 or 2 very specific ones. And knowing that when you apply means that you can help tailor your resume and work on projects beforehand if you have like a target goal. So luckily for me, as someone who only had AutoCAD experience, also was very heavy into AutoCAD, and basically I worked as a technical designer. They gave me smaller projects to start, but it ramped up over time to the point where I was kind of like independently designing things to be issued for construction, which is really cool. So basically a lot of times they'll start kind of just trying to see how independent you are, and then they'll give you more leeway from that point on, and you'll actually be working on very similar stuff to what the actual full-time people are, just for way less pay. And then at the Cade Museum, it was again like it was something outside of the main themed entertainment space. Museums are still part of themed entertainment, but I was working almost as like an operations intern. I was focused on education and museum op. So I did a lot of day-to-day around the museum, but I also got to help with designing, planning, and making some of the new exhibits. So I would suggest like look in unexpected places as well for internships. That was like the last place I applied to. And it was the only place that accepted me. So yeah, it was a really good experience as well.
So at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, it was technically like it was partially business internship. So every Wednesday I had like a seminar to go to where different aspects of the park would come in and talk to us about what they do in their day-to-day operations. And then other than that, I worked a lot, pretty much every single day up there as a senior ride operator. So I was in charge of the ride. And my whole kind of goal with that was to learn about myself and leadership and how do I manage people? How do I, hold myself and how do I figure out what I need to do without looking like an idiot? And then besides that, I also kind of looked at the technical aspects of the roller coaster, what kind of errors it threw us, how to actually operate the ride, what are the day-to-days of the theme park so that if I want to go and design it later, what can I prevent against or what can I keep if I like the way it operates? So I learned a lot about myself up there. But I also kind of learned how much I enjoy theme parks and how spending every day in the theme park was fun to me, and I could do that.
So both my internships were kind of generic engineering. Every day I was staring at a computer for 8 hours. Partially because the first internship or project was overseas, and the second one was during the middle of COVID. So it kind of just worked out that way, but that is definitely a large part of what you're gonna do. Like Ellie said, knowing what software you're gonna be working on and getting at least a bit of an understanding of how it works before you apply to an internship or you start working on an internship is very useful. But you're gonna be learning a lot more when you have those jobs and most classes, which is why a lot of companies will have standards, procedures laid out or do things slightly different. The first internship was a lot of just working at a project, like straight engineering, progressively working up. The second one, and just probably because of the clients and the type of work we're doing, is a lot more meeting-based kind of project management and organizing of information between both ourselves, clients, and third parties. So I guess that's a sort of element that was the other ones.
Then Will, if you wouldn't mind describing your day-to-day of your internship.
All right, sure. So one of mine was a bit more out there, rides maintenance at SeaWorld Orlando. That's not a normal thing most people do for internships. Basically, it was wake up at 2 a.m, clock in at 4 a.m, inspect rides, perform preventive maintenance procedures, repairs as necessary, get to know the rides really, really well. I worked on Mantle while I was at SeaWorld, and then I worked on Wild Arctic when it was still there back in 2018. So I got to really know a lot about, like Hannah was saying, the types of errors that show up on rides, but also how to go in, how to clear those errors, what causes them, and some of the things that can be done long-term to try and prevent those types of errors from coming up in the future. I think that was a really great technical experience, and it helped me develop a lot of technical skills for my first engineering internship, where I was, Entech was a small company. I think we had 8 people in the office. And for most of the summer, I kind of was the engineering department there. So it was pretty cool. We had projects with Disney, Universal, Nickelodeon, all kinds of cool themed entertainment companies. And day to day, it was open up SolidWorks and start designing stuff. With a lot of smaller companies, you get thrown into a lot of things, and it's a great opportunity to learn because nobody else is there to really help. You have to figure things out on your own. And then after that, I went to Universal Creative, which is where I know a lot of people in here probably want to go at some point. It's a fun place. It's very different. It's very big, but they do a good job of keeping the team small. Like I was working on a ride team for one upcoming project, and we had 7 people, I believe, on the team, including me. So you're really like 1/7 of the team, even though you're only there for a couple of months. And they do a good job of giving you a lot of really interesting responsibilities related to whatever stage the project's in when you're there.
Now we've talked a little bit about what you did as part of your internship. Now let's take a step back. And while you were applying to the internships, where did you find your internships? Did you find them on LinkedIn? Did you find them on a job board through networking? If you would mind describing your journey to your internships?
Yeah, so for me, I was very lucky. So student organizations are always gonna be your best friend. So what happened for me was, I'm a part of National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE. I was at a meeting, and at the end of the meeting, they typically always have a presenter from a certain company come in to pitch like their internship or whatever. So P&G was there, and I was like, it was the week of career showcase, and I was just like, man, I need an internship soon. So I was just there, I was listening. Everybody that was talking sounded very passionate about where they worked about. It didn't sound like they didn't like where they were working at, and members of the organization had also previously worked there, and they were giving nothing but great reviews. So I was like, you know what, let me check it out. I go, I apply, and then I go to Career Showcase. Luckily, the same recruiter that was at the NSBE meeting was the same recruiter for Career Showcase. So she had already seen my face. I told her I'd applied, I'd finished the assessment that was required, had like a good 15-minute conversation with her. Mind you, this is during COVID, and I kind of love that the Career Showcase now, they have those 15 allotted minutes for you. They have to talk to you for those 15 minutes uninterrupted. So I was able to get in a really good conversation, and that put me in a really good foot in the door, and it really helped out. So that's essentially how I found my internship. And then from there, it led to the summer program where I talked, met with a bunch of people in the job as well, did the interview at the end, and I actually didn't get the position I applied for. So I was originally under product supply, and they were like, then I got an email, mind you, day of my birthday, no, and I was like crushed. Then the day after, I get an email, and they're like, oh, so we actually wanted you to go into a different position, and I was like, that should have been the same email, but you know, that's essentially how I found my internship. Again, not theme park related, but like P&G is a huge company. Like I put that on my resume, and now it is known. So, you know, just find wherever you can if it's not like plausible for you. Everybody has a different route to their end goal.
Yeah, so for my first internship, I found it because my friend's dad told me that the company was looking for interns, and I applied kind of on a whim. And it was kind of like a networking thing where my friend's dad knew the guy who was in charge of the creative design department. And so I guess he recommended me, and I was able to get that. Now, honestly, if you follow a bunch of companies on LinkedIn, it'll recommend more companies, and they'll always like post stuff. So that's where I've been like looking to the place that I'm applying out. And then for the CADE one, I literally just said, I wonder if they have interns, and then I Googled their website, and they did. So pretty boring for that journey.
So I was really lucky. Brandon Lamb had already gotten an internship with Busch Gardens Williamsburg for the summer, and he knew that I didn't have anything. So he was like, hey, you know, did you think about applying to Busch Gardens Williamsburg? There's nothing for Orlando, so it's a little far, but like, hey, maybe you should apply. I'll get my recruiter to look at your resume. And I was like, yo, that's awesome. So I applied, and they looked at my resume and everything from there. I did the interviews, and it went well, so I got the internship. So just a really big thank you to him, I guess. So network with people. If you hear about opportunities, then certainly go for them.
Okay, so first internship was I think it would have been spring of 2018. Me and some of the other members of TPED for the first time went to ASTM 24 conference, which if you're unfamiliar, ASTM 24 is the body that writes a lot of the safety standards and codes, all that for amusement park amusement rights and devices. So what that is they're not going to be telling you that like the steel piece can support 100 pounds or it can't, but they're going to be telling you your handrails have to be doing this much, your rights can't go over this many G's of force. They're going to be laying out a lot of the policy and procedural documents. And they meet in the conference biannually, and once in the spring and once in the fall. And usually it's on a East Coast, West Coast thing. I sent an email saying, "Yo, thank you for talking with me." And he replied, it's like, "Yeah, it was great meeting you, blah, blah, blah." And we had the design team. And I think at the end of the semester, I sent him the work that I did on the design team. I was like, "Hey, is this good work? What's your feedback? This similar to what you did?" And he ended up emailing me a little bit back. He's like, "Yeah, that's really cool. You want an internship?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So that was no interview, no application, no anything. 10 out of 10 best process I ever went through. And that was really cool. So in the summer, I got extended to the fall and stayed there for a while on the fun project. That was in 2018. 2019, I didn't get an internship, big sad. Then 2020, TEA, which is the Teen Entertainment Association, has this event called Big Gab, which is basically a series of like, instead of speed dating, it's like speed interviews. So they have 20 or 30 different companies, and you interview them in like 2 minutes or something. So I talked to someone who there who is at a company called BRPH, who they do architecture and engineering for the entertainment industry. And yeah, he was like, "Yeah, you seem like a good candidate." I emailed him afterwards, like, "What should do?" He's like, "Yep, I'm going to forward your resume to the structural engineering department and tell me in like a couple months if he hadn't heard anything back," which I didn't hear anything back. I messaged him. He was like angry. He's like, "Why haven't I done this?" So he sent it again, didn't hear anything back. I learned that actually they were going to career showcase. So I was like, "Oh, cool, I'll go follow them there too." So I went there, I gave them my resume again. They're like, "Oh yeah, sure, it seems awesome." And I told him I did that. He's like, "Cool, you'll hear back this time." I didn't. And I also, he told me to apply online to the official thing. And then I finally heard back. They're like, "Yeah, let's do an interview. This sounds great." I'm like, "Woo!" And COVID happened. I'm like, I get a call from them, which is super nice, like from the HR. They're like really apologetic, you know, how everything was. That had to cancel it, obviously. That's how it was. But then like a couple weeks later, they're like, "Hey, you want that interview?" And then yeah, so I guess that's a good story of networking, sending emails, and communicating with people, going to conferences and TA events. Good plus.
And Will, if you wouldn't mind describing your journey to your internship, how did you find yours?
So I found them all through people, and I'm going to say the same thing, kind of that Chris said. It's, if you want to work in this industry, you have to go to events and you have to know people to really make it very far. Interviewed and all that fun stuff and got it. Especially for smaller companies like at Nassau, I know like Ellie was talking about, Entech was the same thing. I knew there were 8 people in the office. I knew 4 of the people from the company, and that's the only reason they considered me for an intern. And then Universal Creative, I didn't know anyone for. I just, once it kind of sucks once you already have 2 internships on your resume, it's a lot easier to get another one. So
Now, just while we're in this little bit of a transition period, does anyone here have any questions for our panelists that you'd like to ask?
Andy, a few questions.
If that motivates
No,
anyone.
For the internships that you did where you didn't initially have housing options, what did you do to go about that?
Well, for me, they help you find housing. I'm going to a whole nother state. So, and it's only for like, it's a summer period. So essentially they send a list of like summer housing options. So for me, luckily, there's like there's 2 universities nearby, so they offer summer housing. They send me other apartments that have like 3 months contracts and stuff like that, because they know it's like a internship hub, because that's where the headquarters is located. So a bunch of apartment companies kind of like profit off that and stuff like that. And on top of that, they'll help me do roommate matching with other interns. I already found like my roommate for next summer. So it's stuff like that, like they'll help you out typically when they're like a larger company, because they have the funds, like they kind of help me pay for it. They were like, it's a Fortune 500 company. They're like, oh, like we'll fly you out so you can tour like the apartments, and I was like, okay, cool. But with smaller internships, next person.
Yeah, so I am a grifter and stay with family members. But my roommate, she did several internships like in different countries, and honestly, Airbnb is so good. You can even find ones that are specifically for interns. One of my friends worked at Disney. There was a lady who specifically rented out rooms to interns. So Airbnb, you can look for people who are subleasing. In larger cities, I would go with Airbnb. It may be cheaper. And a lot of times, my service are not important.
So for Williamsburg, they also kind of gave us housing. It's kind of not the best housing, but it was cheap, so that was good. But the other thing you can also do is if there's like a local college or something, join their like subleasing group. So a lot of students like leave for the summer, so they'll sublease their place, and you'll be able to get a place that's pretty decent for a reasonable amount.
Stay hotels. Yeah, besides that, at your university campus or around subways and page.
And Will, what did you do for your housing situation?
Parents live in Orlando, so I got lucky. That and a bed and breakfast in Rockledge.
Doesn't get more convenient than that. So for those, I know that Ellie and Will mentioned a little bit about using your skills in your internship of SolidWorks and AutoCAD and programs like that. What do you recommend having in your portfolio, or do you have a portfolio that you keep maintained?
I can start. Build a personal brand, decide what it is you want to do, be diverse in that. So if you're deciding, like I'm primarily basically deciding I'm into manufacturing, being a draftsman, things like that. I'm less of like a pure engineer. So even though I have some engineering stuff in there and I have my engineering projects, I'm focusing very heavily on all of the programs that I would need to know to work more on like drafting packages, to work in shops, and building up all of my shop knowledge. So kind of find your niche, figure out who you want to be, figure out where you want to go. And if you don't know who you want to be or where you want to go, try stuff out. Just try stuff out. If you try something for one project, you can put it in your resume, put it in your portfolio. So if you literally do like, say, one SketchUp project, slap that shit on your website. That's literally how I got my NSL internship. I had done half of an AutoCAD project, and they were like, what AutoCAD work have you done? I was like, well, my favorite project, it's the only one I had. So basically just kind of figure out what you want to sell yourself as and just go all out with that.
Anyone else have a portfolio? Will, do you want to speak to that, or anyone?
Yeah, sure. Make a portfolio. I'm bad. Most people have like school projects that they do on their portfolio to fill it up a little bit more. I did not do that. I have a lot of theme park related stuff, and so when you're applying for jobs outside of the industry, if you apply for jobs outside of the industry, that can be a little bit weird. But yeah, like Ellie was saying, figure out what you want to do.
Question about that. About portfolios and whatnot. So what sort of like media should it be presented in?
So you're an architect.
Yes.
So I know you guys have physical ones,
Ooh.
but I would say Wix.com. It's free, really easy to use. There's multiple levels of it. There's their editor, which is very like simple, drag and drop. There's their, I think I might be getting them mixed up with the API. But 2 levels. The next level is more drag and drop, where you can move stuff around like InDesign, and then there's also a like they call it their like programmer level or something, where you can actually do like add in scripts and everything for your website. So it's very good for all skill levels, and you can even like purchase a domain if you have an account. It's more expensive, but I have my own email for my website, and it looks really fancy. So website, plus you can put like a QR code on your resume or your business card or something. So that's what I would say.
I definitely recommend having a website. I also use Wix because I don't know how to like make my own website, and it's super easy and free. So
This is not a
shame-
Wix plug.
actually, if you look at the back of my shirt, you'll find a QR code for 3 months off. But no, like seriously, like that, like I just put like a link in my resume now. When you apply to certain internships, they're like, do you have an online portfolio? So like put it in here, slap on that link. It's great, super readable. I kind of mimic Ellie's website. She doesn't know it, but actually she does. I texted her and then she caught me looking, then she caught me looking at her LinkedIn. Cause I was like, but yeah, definitely make that. It's a great presentation. It helps you display your skills because on a resume, you really only have so much space to talk about what you do. You can make like a quick bullet point. A website, you could like further elaborate. So like the whole point of my website is I could be like, so I talked about this on my resume. Here's like everything I've done with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that way you don't have to have like PDF.
Yes.
What if you get to that weird state where you're not quite sure exactly what it is you want to do career-wise? So when it comes to kind of tailoring your resume to what you want to do, you don't really know what you want to do. What do you go about doing?
Dude, you're in a beautiful state right now. You have so much, like, what year are you in? You have so much potential. You're fine. One thing I'm gonna say, college major does not equal career path. My brother was pre-med, chemistry major, minor in psychology. Whole point was to be a pharmacist. The man works in business now. He went back to school and got his MBA. So don't stress yourself out about that. Your resume, you could just put your leadership experiences. One thing a lot of internships will always prioritize is leadership. So my P&G internship, they weren't looking for like super technically inclined people. They were looking for leaders because that's what the company consists of. So it wasn't really me talking so much about like my whole interviews. They weren't like, oh, like what's your technical experience? Give me like what your background is in like this and that program. It was more like, give me a scenario where you did this. So, and that goes for everything. In every position you're in, bosses expect leadership. They expect you to be able to lead projects, lead teams. So be self-reliant. So just putting those experiences you have, whether it's like being a part of like a student organization, maybe you as a personal project you worked on your own. Maybe it's not a display of your technical skills on your resume since you don't know like what you're catering to. And it's like a more general format for just like applying wherever, but leadership is valued anywhere and everywhere. So you could always have those on resumes.
You also kind of tailor the resume to the job a little bit. So you can have like a nice general resume or like a Word doc of like all the different stuff that you've done. And then say you're applying to a super technical job, you put all of the technical things on that resume, plus like something that you're passionate about, maybe. So, you know, tailor it to the job, but also make sure that you have things on there that you're proud of and that you can talk about and that you are excited to talk about with a potential employer.
Kind of like a follow-up to that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, was I interrupting?
Oh, no.
Okay. So yeah, so the leadership stuff is very important, but then if you don't really have that kind of direction vector like we're taught physically, then how would you go about trying to find the internship? Because if you don't really have a place that you're saying, okay, I want to do X, I want to do Y, where do you even start looking?
So, yeah, so I kind of, I'm all over the place. I change what I want to do like every 5 seconds. I've kind of found my niche now, but I was in the exact same place. I was like, oh, I want to be a theater producer. I want to do this. I want to do that. Try stuff. Just find something you're like, I fit 60% of these job requirements. Apply to everything. Just keep applying. Take whatever looks, if you have multiple offers, take the coolest one. If you get a single offer, take that. And I think just like as to your resume thing, I'd say add something cool and weird. I know that sounds crazy, but especially if you don't have a bunch of stuff on your resume, if you add something that's interesting, people are going to ask you about it. Like I make soap. That's how I got my job at NASA. Was the guy who was interviewing me wouldn't stop asking me about the soap making process. So if you have a hobby that you're really into and you do a lot of personal projects, like Claudia was talking about, even if like say you hate talking in front of people, you don't want to be a traditional leader, you can self-lead. So if you show that you've done a project from beginning to end, that is a form of leadership. That shows that you're a self-starter. That shows that you know what you're doing. Even if it's literally like, oh, hey, I ran this entire D&D campaign and made like this board that was really cool, like as a dungeon master, and like I made all these like little figurines. Put that in your portfolio. That's really cool and weird. People are gonna ask about that. You're not just another boring like 12-point Calibri font, like, hey, I did my schoolwork type of resume. So just do what you like, honestly. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Put what you like to do on there, as long as it's not weird or legal.
And the places you find to apply to, where would you get those from?
LinkedIn.
So I was gonna say for you, research is gonna be your best friend right now. Since you don't really know like exactly where you want to end up, you're not sure where your career is gonna take you. Like just LinkedIn, those career showcases, word of mouth, talk to your friends, like see what internship they've had, internship they've applied to. Those are really gonna spark your interest. And then from there, it's like further research. Like I came into US my first semester, I was biomedical engineering. My whole goal was to end in prosthetics. That's what I wanted to do. Now I want to work in theme parks. Why? How did I get there? It was literally like, what semester is this? Spring. When my friend was aerospace, I saw her coursework, super interested in that. So I started doing research in that. But I was like, I'm not really interested in space or aircraft. Then I realized mechie is almost the same coursework and very similar career paths and goals. So I was like, okay, let me look into that. I looked further into that. So then I switched my major because I was more interested in it. Then a light shined on me. And as I was going to my SolidWorks class in the spring, I saw a TPED flyer. And I was like, I like theme parks. I literally I used to watch like theme park videos on like my phone. So I was like, okay, I'll like try to join that. I joined and then people are like, yeah, so I internshipped here at SeaWorld. I did this. And I'm like, those places hire people? What? Like, it like blew my mind because I never thought that, like, I don't know why I didn't think of it. Like, I love theme parks. I forgot people work there and build these things. Crazy, right? So it was just research. And now I found something that I'm like, I need to end up here because that's what I want out of my life. So, you know, and then P&G was just word of mouth, listening from other people to get that technical experience. It's all like, it's going to be like research on your part. So like when you get home today, like start looking stuff up. I would look at like pages of like, so Universal Creative, I would just open all the internships and I'd be like, all right, let me read through some of these. What do they do? Then I'd see if I could like Google information on them. I Googled the information on P&G. I asked people who had interned there in the past, like what it was like for them. Research is going to be your best friend right now, since you don't know like where you want to go. And research is everyone's best friend. We all don't have a job right now, technically. So we should, like, everybody can look into something. And again, like your path can change at any point in time. Just always do what you're like interested in, what you want to do and what makes you happy. So keep looking into stuff like that and you'll end up somewhere, I promise. Like you're not like lost. It's okay. It's normal. You're in a normal state.
Well, you can jump in at any time if you have any like advice or any commentary on this too.
Oh, you checked all the boxes.
I have one.
That was everything.
Sorry, you're next, Brian. Okay, yeah. One thing that like when you start going into this industry, you can probably name like 3, 4, 5 companies. Maybe if you know people, you can name more. Hundreds, if not thousands of companies that are working on everything from theme parks, museums to casinos. You just have to know where to apply. There's a ton of small companies. So the best thing to do, talk to people that have had internships, go to networking events. If you can snag, like, we're going to IAPA soon. So if you can snag one of our like programs, there's literally a list of companies in there. But you just have to know where to look because a lot of them, like, they're not huge and a lot of them are under NDAs. All of them are under NDAs.
Yeah.
They aren't like the big companies. So join clubs like this, basically.
I was just gonna build off of that, just like
Oh.
ask your professors too. 'cause
Oh,
they
yeah.
have
Yeah,
a ton of
definitely.
experience as well. Like I literally was talking with Manuel and he pointed me to like different directions that I could go for internships. So just talk to people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now,
I was just gonna ask, like, what should we do if we like kind of don't really have anything to put on our resume right now?
You do.
You always have
You have
something.
stuff.
What year are you in?
I'm first year.
First year. Okay. So you have leeway. You can still put stuff from high school on your resume. So what did you do in high school? Just have a little one-on-one real quick.
one-on-one and 50 million other people.
Literally.
Like I feel like club, honor society.
Okay, those things, you milk those things out.
Yeah.
Every minute you put into those student org, you're gonna be like, I did this and I was a leader here. Like you put it in right now in TPED, you're a member of TPED. Put that on your resume. I love talking about the student org at internship, at like interviews and stuff like that. Why? Because people always ask about it. Because it literally reads Gator Theme Park Engineering and Design. People are like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, great question. Let me tell you. So like literally put anything and everything. You're only in your first year. So like, yeah, it's okay if you have some high school stuff. Keep throwing yourself out there while you're here right now in this first year. A lot of student orgs sometimes will have like cabinet positions or like committee applications like throughout the semester that you could like join like midway. One, that gets your foot in the door for like an e-board position the year after. 2, more resume, like experience to add. And another thing you could do to build up your resume is have like personal projects, anything you want to start on. I like my freshman year, I didn't have anything, so I taught myself Python. Don't do it. And yeah, so I taught myself Python. I thought it's a long story why I taught myself Python. I didn't even get the internship I wanted it for, but like I did that. I had it on my resume for a bit because I had that project. People would ask me about it. It was a talking point. So like you might not feel like you have anything. One, you have something. Two, you can make something. Just keep going.
Split TPED up. If you've gone to a design team meeting, that's another thing. Don't just put TPED and put design team under
Yeah.
it. Split it up into a separate thing. If you swamp those, what's the third thing? Literally just keep coming to things. If you have like a class project that you worked on for a whole semester, that's something. Just, you're not expected to have a job yet.
Yeah.
You're not. And even if you've done, say, like I've done a couple of art projects for people I already had at that point, and so I put freelance artist. I was a freelance artist. I sold like 3 things and I was like 18, but you have stuff. You have a lot more than you think you do. I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Do you have any questions from the gallery or?
The gallery, that is a term.
Yeah.
I have a boring question.
Love
So I know this is gonna vary based on the actual job and like what you were doing, but like how did like hours and pay work out? How does that feel?
Good start. So one, I'm gonna say this right now, patience is a virtue. I applied to so many places, so many, we regret to inform you emails. And I was like, I'm never gonna get one. I finally got one. The pay is delicious. Like first for that first week program, they were paying me to go to Zoom meetings. I was like, I pay credit hours to go to Zoom meetings. Like that's insane. So like pay, one, sometimes you could really negotiate pay. So I was able to negotiate pay because I was like, oh, I have to like move out of state and stuff like that. So they're like, yeah, sure. Like here's a housing stipend on top of what you were already paying me. I was like, I was about to pass out. I was like, okay, thanks. So like in terms of hours, a lot of engineering jobs you'll also find sometimes aren't like, oh, like at least mine isn't like coming from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. It's not like that. There's hours open to come in for work. I also get paid off salary, so that changes it, not hourly. So it's just come in, work on your project. And then like you come in as needed. You can also work like remotely and stuff like that. Or there's meetings you have to go to, obviously. But be critical with your time. Cause like that's another thing. One thing about getting paid off salary, it's easier for them to take advantage of you. A 40-hour work week can with like an intention of what you're doing at work and stuff like that. Mine was much more, I'd say lenient, but you also have to be really responsible in terms of like balancing your workload in order to make sure you're not overworking yourself and stuff like that.
I didn't know they had salaried interns.
They
So my first one was about probably 12 an hour, which I think is standard for a lot of smaller companies for interns. You're not going to get paid what you're worth, if we're going to be real, unless you're working for a huge company. You're there because they need extra hands and they need to train people to take on the big jobs, and they're kind of testing you out for a lot of companies. For hours, I worked like right under 40 a week. Internship laws, unless I guess it's salaried, if you're working hourly, you technically aren't allowed to work full time. So I kept coming in early accidentally, and then accidentally working through lunch, and I got in trouble a lot, and they kept making me go home early on Fridays because I maxed out my hours. But then the Cave Museum was unpaid, but I only had to work 15 hours a week, and it was easy. So also look into like unpaid things if you have this time, if it's in your area. It's still an internship you get to put on your resume for months. So.
Yeah, I was paid $13.75 an hour. But I worked a lot, so a lot of the time I would have to go in at 9. And then I would just stay until like 10 o'clock at night when we closed. And then I had to do all the paperwork. So I stayed for another 2 hours. But I was there from like 2 to 12 o'clock at night, almost like at least 5 days a week. Usually I took another day, so it was like 1 day off, and I was on my feet outside all day too. So, but I enjoyed it, so it's okay. So yeah.
Yeah, so first job was 40 hours a week, and we weren't allowed to do overtime unless we were approved to do it. and realistically, we needed to most of the time, but we didn't until kind of crunch time. Just worked 24/7 for like an hour. Second job, so that was a small company, only like 15 people total there, so they like didn't quite have as much money. Second job, which is a bigger company, they just it's like, yeah, you can do overtime whenever you want. People of you work 60 hours a week, which this was in the middle of COVID, so we're also so I just work like 60 hours a week. It's engineering, so generally speaking, a lot of people are doing over 40 hours a week.
And then, Will, if you wouldn't mind discussing your pay rate and hours and how that worked out for you.
Sure. I mean, for your first internship, if it's in engineering, you're probably looking at, like Ellie said, around like $12.50, and it'll go up for bigger companies, as other people have said. My first internship at SeaWorld, I was supposed to only work 28 hours a week. I was supposed to have part-time hours. I asked them if I could work 40, and they said, yeah, absolutely, we're short-staffed. So don't feel afraid to ask them if you want to work more. Everyone wants you to work more because you're willing to work for cheaper. Yeah, so you can always find a way to work more. Like Chris was saying, with smaller companies, technically you're only getting paid for 40 hours a week, but you're staying more than 40 hours a week because you represent like the design team or the whole design team. And so the business still has to run, and you're treated as if you are a full-time employee. So, you get all the responsibilities that come with that, and it's a great experience. And then, something like Universal Creative, a bigger company, is the complete opposite, where it's like, this hour to this hour, and then you're done, go home. So it depends on the company, really.
Okay. Well, to end, I would say that something that we've probably all taken from this is keep asking, keep exploring, and keep trying, and you never know what you're going to expect. I would guess that would be what we would say all together.
Things.
In a sense. So thank you. If you would mind getting a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much for your advice. Wow, it feels so formal. Oh.
Oh, was I supposed to take a picture?
I don't know. Oh,
I
she's
took
wrong.
it.
Different angles.
Okay,
I love that.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. Yeah, so now we're going to move into the resumes.
Yes. And if you asked a question, check with Ellie for your candy.
If you didn't ask a question, I also have candy. It was
Candy for everyone.
It's my fault. Yeah, so can we bring back up Grace's PowerPoint?
Yeah,
Quick,
so
Grace is gonna be giving a quick little resume overview for some tips, and then we're gonna break out into little groups.
Okay, hi guys. Resume. Okay. Resumes, they seem like a big deal. They are a big deal, but they're not that complicated, so don't overthink it. Basically, make a cool format. Make something that's like relatively like organized and just like something that you would want people to see as like part of like your brand or whatnot, like Ellie was saying. And one really important thing is like when you go and describe different things, you need to make sure you use like good action words, which is very, very frustrating because it's hard to think of them. But like you want to be like concise and consistent with what you're saying about what you're doing. And yeah, list of GPA, list of like something that I didn't think about when I did my resume was list of relevant coursework, like SolidWorks, different calc classes, physics, all that stuff, like take statics, but don't like, I just put the course codes like, oh, they're gonna know what this is. Explain what it is because they won't know what the course codes mean. They went to UF, maybe if not, you don't know. And yeah, make sure you have all your contact information on there. And LinkedIn, make your LinkedIn thing, make it like, so it says like just LinkedIn / your name. So it's like not like a bunch of random stuff. So make it like that. There's a way to do that. And at the bottom, you really want to have a thing that lists your skills. Because whether you're proficient like with 3D printing, AutoCAD, SolidWorks, they might not get that from your list of descriptions of what you've done, if it's just mainly leadership stuff. So you really want to show that. But yeah, just be proud of what you've done and be willing to show it off because it's all really impressive and you want people to see that. So don't be modest. Don't be humble. Just go out there, tell them everything.
Don't lie.
Don't lie, but like you've done
Stretch.
Yeah, just use what you got. And
Just another quick tip. If you are applying to a specific industry, Google what the keywords recruiters scan for that industry. Recruiters oftentimes will have like an AI service. So if you're applying to say like a computer science job, they'll have like a very specific set of words that they'll look for in each resume. And if your resume, even if it literally is talking about that exact same thing, but doesn't use the keyword, it gets automatically thrown out. So make sure. For theme parks, it's a little bit more finicky, but if you're applying to like a specific, let's say you're a mechanical engineering job within the theme park company, look up mechanical engineering keywords and write those down. Although I'm sure like Disney would have a set of words.
And if you have like a leadership position, like say you are a chair of an organization, don't just say, I organized and facilitated and did this, because obviously you did that. Like you had a chair, if you had a certain position, if you're a president, Ellie, you're a president, they know you're going to coordinate and organize with people. Be specific about what you did to make it stand out. Like if you're on a design team, I specifically worked on this electrical system for the drop, or I worked on creating the theming. You want to be specific so people, when they're looking at your resume, they can be like, okay, how did you do this? Tell me more about it. Because if it's just something generic, they're not going to be able to ask you questions about it. And you really want to stick out and have something to tell them that they remember. So, yeah, you guys brought your resumes. The panelists and probably other people are going to want to help you look at them. If not, you can ask questions, but yeah. Cool. Right.
Just got resumes split up.
Yeah.
I can read resumes.
I am not gonna read resumes, and I just want first and
I can also not read resumes, but you got my resume.
I can also help people with portfolios and websites.